I'm so happy we're all here together. What a wonderful day. You know, today we are going to continue focusing on the empowering themes that we created this year of May, and expectation and also humor. And last week, 2 weeks ago, our dearly beloved Reverend Sandy gave us one aspect of expectation when she said that it's something that we experience as youngsters and getting into the older ages, is that what people expect of us. And she went in and she brought in a lot of humor, which was it was an awesome talk. And she brought in humor and said, and here's our response to all that. Then Reverend Bob brought us all into tears, or at least I was in tears. How many were in tears? Yeah, we were there. And so he made us cry. But anyway, Reverend Bob got into the oneness of the universe itself, and how that this loving energy of love is expressing itself always, and that all we need to do is open our hearts and open our minds and open our eyes and see it all around us, that we are experiencing every moment the kingdom of God right here and right now. Did you accept that? That was beautiful. Thank you, Bob. Well, today we're going to look at a different idea of expectation, a different focus. And I looked at it, and it'll be two parts. We're going to be looking at expectation, and if I get to it, the second part. The first part will be the individualized idea of expectation, and then the group. The individualized expectation, and we look at it that we are tremendous dynamos, creative dynamos, are we not? Expectation is that igniting power. It's that power that we have that ignites the energy field of intention. And what it does, it triggers then a manifestation in physical form. You know, we've all heard when we were younger that we need to be careful what we wish for, it may come true. Today and this month, as we look at expectation, we need to rephrase that and say, we need to be careful what we expect, because it will come true. And expectation, as I look at it this morning, is very much akin to judgment. And what's kind of interesting is that when we judge something, we put in mind what is coming next after we judge. So it's an out picture of judgment itself. Let me give you an example so that you know what Andrew was trying to talk about. As a spiritual counselor, we see people who come to us once in a while with tremendous life-challenging situations that they perceive. And they'll say something to the effect that, I've lost my job. Well, that's okay. You lost your job. But what they do, they tack on the expectation with that statement. I've lost my job. So what happens? No one will hire me because I'm 60 years old. That's an expectation. And what happens in that, and that in itself is the raw idea of what expectation is all about, because we're putting into the mix then what's going to come next. That's what we're talking about. So no one will hire me because I'm 60 years old. So what happens is we go through the want ads. I've done that myself after I got out of the Marine Corps. You go through the want ads and you're circling in red all the various jobs that might be open to us. And then you make the phone calls. And this idea of expectation, bringing forth what we want, what we desire, even though it's subtle in many ways, we don't really mean it. We get rejected. We make the phone calls. We get rejected. Well, what's that all about? What it is, it's we are creating the expectation, and that's causing all this situation. Spiritual counselors, pardon me if I sound excited. I go nuts when I'm up here. Spiritual teachers will tell you, and they see this time and time again, that people will come to them, whether it's because relationships, job issues, finances, how to deal with the kids or the grandparents, how to deal with the in-laws. It's the same story always. We are always creating. And what we can say is that the out-picturing, what we see on the outside, is an exact mirror of what's on the inside. Would you agree with that? So what I love about this month is the fact that it eliminates Angelo's complaints. If I don't like what's happening to Angelo, then damn, stop whining, because I'm the one that's creating it in the first place. Do something about it. And what I need to do then is I've got to change my expectation. If I'm not liking what I'm experiencing, I change that. And so there's two parts there to expectation. And the first, of course, is that we decide. And this is basic science of my new thought. We decide the what. What is it we want to experience? We decide that. And of course we like to put labels. In religious science we like to put labels and everything. And we call it the male principle, or the father within, as we mentioned today. It's the determining aspect of what we want to experience. What is it that I want? Where we run into difficulties is when we cross the line and we go into that second part. Each one of us has what we call the responsive faculty of spirit itself. It's the response. We all have it. Whether we believe in this or not, it doesn't matter. We're always creating, because that's why we're here. We're here to create our life experiences. So the responsive attitude, what I love about that is it comes from a dimension of all possibilities. It's illogical. And a lot of times it doesn't make sense. It's not bound by time and space. It's God in action. And it's not under the domain of anything physical. And what the story that I like about all that has to do, and it's wonderful, it shows this idea of this loving, giving energy that we call it the feminine principle, by the way. We do have a label on it. It's the mother within. Always saying yes. What I love about that is that it does come from a dimension of all possibilities. There's nothing we can't achieve. If we can dream it, we can achieve it. And where this is all about is this story. This Ellen is a 17-year-old child, and her father fought in Vietnam, and he had post-traumatic PTSD, they call it, post-traumatic stress disorder. And part of that was he had his buddy John, who went into the service with him, who was injured in battle. And John's lying there and got injured, and so Tom is holding him, hugging him. We can cry about that because it's very emotional. John takes off this medal and says, "I'm not going to make it. I want you to have this." And he hands him the medal. And so Tom puts it on his neck. Really sad, but not really. Because what he said was, "Keep this in remembrance of me," and he dies. Well, here's Tom getting home, and he's going through this PTSD, and he's in depression all the time. And he really wasn't making it. And so he told Ellen, his daughter, he said, "I've got to go find myself someplace else. I've got to see if I can find myself." And so he said, "I've got to leave for a while." So he's at the airport. He takes off the medal. Now, he never was without that medal. He takes it off, and he hands it to Ellen. He says, "Ellen, keep this for me. And keep this for me." So he gets on a plane and they go. Well, Ellen hadn't heard from her dad for several weeks, and was really worrying about this and what's happening to my father. So she went into what we call the what? The expectation. At night she prayed for her dad. She says, "Oh, please, Dad, come home to me. I miss you. I'd like to be with you. Please come. I miss you." Well, her dad's 3,000 miles away in a hotel. He'd been drinking heavily for several weeks, and he was really depressed, on the verge of suicide. So he goes to bed one night. He's sleeping there, and during the dream, now this is that loving energy that has no boundaries. During the dream, he dreams as if his daughter Ellen was there at his bedside. And she said, "Daddy, come home. I miss you." And he said, "My God." He woke up and he says, it was as if she was really there. Like she was there. So he turns on the light, and there's the medal on his nightstand. Wow. So you tell me, as we look at this experience, it brings tears to our eyes because that's who we are. This idea of this love energy is who we are. We are that. And it's beautiful, and we can embrace it and say yes to it. Of course, I get all involved here, and then I lose my place. But anyway, it's okay. There's this dimension of creativity, so wonderful, and it's joyful. When you see tears in Angel's eyes, it's tears of gratitude, because I love it all. I love it because that's who we are. And what I told you before, it gives us an excuse to stop whining about what's happening to us out in the outer. Because the outer is as an expression of the inner. Now we see this dimension, this responding faculty, that's what I call it, the mom within. We can call it whatever we want. It's not bound by anything in the physical. it's unlimited in nature. And we see it all around. This is what Bob was trying to tell us. Well, we're not trying, he did tell us. But what Bob was saying last time, look around. This loving energy is there all over. It's heaven on earth. And we don't have to go very far. You can look up in the sky and see the jet flying by. Or we can go in our pocket and take the iPhone out. Or we can go ahead and this little chip that goes into the computer that will hold an entire Bible or an entire encyclopedia. What's all that about? That is the response to someone who's creative in nature, thinking a thought that I can do this, I can have this technology that we can reach out, and then this loving energy says, yes! And provides with that person the inspiration to go ahead and the tools necessary to manifest. Isn't that awesome? This is who we are, for goodness sakes. So we need to look at this and say, no, I need to stop whining. Now, it's a combination. We hear from this platform and many platforms, we're co-creators of God. How many of you have ever heard that? We're co-creators of God. We're not co-creators of anything. Because what it is duality. It says, well, there's God out there, and then there's Angelo, and I'm going to have a partnership with this entity out there, and we're going to be co-creating. That's nonsense. What co-creation is all about, and this comes from Pizelo, I know it's going to be on tapes, and all my minister friends are going to be cheering at me. The co-creation is putting the male, the dictatorial, the directive part, and the female together. That's the co-creation. Bringing the two aspects of creativity together to provide the child, the manifestation. That's co-creation. It's kind of cool, because that's who we are and that's what we do. It's kind of neat. I think that that this idea of the response of nature it's a blessing, but it also is a curse. Because it's always there, always providing what we put into it. Isn't that true? And it not only works by our words and our words and our emotions, it also responds to our deeds. How we act is an expectation of what we experience from others. If I'm out there ornery and I'm punching people in the nose, I'm going to get punched in the nose. That's the way it is. Because this creative energy always says yes. So it doesn't only respond to us in words and prayers and all that. It's how we act also. So it's always responding to us. What's kind of neat is, I love this guy. This story, Catherine Ponder. How many know about Catherine Ponder? She's a unity minister. And she's an icon when it comes to prosperity thinking. She's written several books. And she's really an expert in everything. And she really knows prosperity. I can tell you about that. But I'm being positive, Catherine. Okay, the idea is, though, one day it was in one of her books, a story. And I try to recall it, and I'm going to get it as close as I can as to what it really happened. This guy comes to her, and she says, one of her congregants, he says, I'm a restaurant owner, and he says, I'm experiencing a downplay in my business. Things aren't going well. And she said, how long has this been? She said, for several weeks now. He said, would you come to my restaurant and take a look at what I'm doing and maybe give me some suggestions on how I can get back to prosperity, because that's what we used to be. She said, no problem, I'll come and have lunch and we'll look. So she walks into the restaurant, and as she walks through the door, and there above the cash register is a sign that says this is a non-profit business. It wasn't meant to be that way, but it is. Oh, wow. And she looked at it, oh my God. So she sits down with this guy and she says, look, I want to ask you about something. What